I've known you for 10 years.
I know.
For 9 of them, it was Nike.
That's true. I'm brand loyal. Good to see you.
Coach, Indiana put up 143 points the other night. Especially shorthanded, what is the key to this matchup?
Tempo and our pace. We have to do a great job, of trying to limit the possessions. Allow our offense to grind a little bit, to move a little bit, make them chase us. Again, shoot our shots so we have the floor balance that we talk about. Limit the turnovers. That gives them, break opportunities. But we want to play the game, at a slower pace, just to make them a little uncomfortable if we can.
Evan was mentioning when talking about his development, I know you were mentioning playing at a slower pace, but he was talking about being more of a playmaker in transition this season, just working on that. In what ways do you potentially see that developing?
He should have the mindset of a point forward or point center at this point, right? When he defensive rebounds the ball, we want him to push the ball up the floor every single time. It just changes the way defenses have to see him. And, most fives aren't comfortable guarding a guy who's pushing it and coming at him. And, that makes the other guy's responsibilities change also. So, we want him as a playmaker. We want him to push the ball. We want our guys to outlet the ball to him and let him push the ball up the floor. So, he's got a lot of creativity and he can see the floor. And he can make passes off the move that, is not typical for a guy his size.
Chris Feedor, Cleveland.com, KJB.
What's up, Chris?
Is Donovan going to go?
Why are you
today?
sitting over there?
Well, there were things on other chairs and stuff like that, so,
Yeah. Change makes me uncomfortable.
I apologize. Should be able to adapt, yes? Donovan tonight?
What's that?
Is he going to play today?
We'll see.
Okay, great. And then there was a conversation last night that you got into, but with more time to look at it, the 3-point shots that you're taking versus attacking the rim and finding that balance. What is the general philosophy that you have with that?
Attack first. I still think that's – and again, we obviously have acquired over the past couple of years guys, when you look at, historically they take a lot of threes, right? Donovan is going to get close to 10 threes a night, Max, George. So we've got guys who over their career, have generated more threes. But I still think how we help each other generate those threes is by putting pressure on the paint first. The more we attack, the more the defense has to collapse, and then we can kick out for those threes, which typically mean those are going to be more open threes. But one of the things that I think, philosophically we've had guys, kind of outperform where they've been before here is because of the freedom that we give guys. So I'm not trying to change who Max is or George or, Donovan, those guys. We want them to have the ultimate freedom and confidence that they take those shots because, again, as the year goes on, they're going to find their average or better, which is only going to help us. So, you're there, you're open, take them. But I do think, we've got other guys, where their strength is at the rim, and those guys need to be aggressive to get to the rim.
Thank you. I'll sit over there next.
Yeah, please do.
Evan Damar, right down you.
You have to get here on time.
Last night, you and your guys were probably obviously frustrated with just how the loss went. How difficult, or in your case, maybe easy, is it to just kind of internalize that, or maybe just move past it because you have a game to worry about the next day?
It's not easy because I don't care what it is. Losing sucks, right? When you're a part of this profession, you're here for the competition, and losing, and then one I felt like we gave away down the stretch by making compound mistakes. I think if we close out that game by just being sound defensively, and not giving up as many threes as we did down the stretch, we win that game. And so, that's frustrating. But we all know that you got a job to do. So, my responsibility is to put our guys in the best frame of mind that we can. Go out, scrap our asses off tonight and see what happens.
And with the trickiness that comes with hamstring injuries, whether it's Darius or Donovan, is it just kind of just seeing how their body feels on a day-to-day basis, or do you just being more cautious than anything?
I mean, it's patience. You have to be. Those are things that, hamstrings, groins, like, you don't treat those right, they linger, and then they become a bigger problem. So we just have to be patient. Our training staff is awesome, so they're doing all the stuff that they need to do, and they're working, to get back as soon as they can because they want to play. So you just have to be patient. And again, we'll never put our guys in compromising situations.
Joe?
When did Donovan's hamstring injury come up?
It started when he started cramping last night in the fourth quarter, and then you've had them before, but like they kind of leave a lingering effect of like soreness and tightness. So it's just not something that we want to mess around with. But it was pretty late, late in the fourth quarter, like the last couple minutes even, I believe it was.
And what about Darius?
It was the Orlando game in the preseason here.
Is
Yeah.
that something that he's been dealing with for a while?
Yeah, yes.
I don't mean this at all as a gotcha Cavs question,
Mm-hmm.
but we had a conversation in the preseason about what Joe Dumars said and what Adam Silver's doing with the penalties for
Mm-hmm.
load management.
Mm-hmm.
But is this the other side of that guys just injuries I guess are happening more than maybe we were used to when we were kids, or something like that, to where like they make a big deal about the load management and playing more, and we're 1 weekend now, we're not even a weekend, and
Right.
This is still happening all over the league.
Right. We make the joke, the more trainers you hire, the more injuries there are, right? Like back in those days, like there was one trainer and he couldn't get to everybody. But I think the difference between, then and now is the diagnosis of everything. Because I do think guys just didn't go in the training room as much because there wasn't the opportunity to go in as much. So guys played through things like that because, obviously times were a little bit different. But I do think, like, if you're around some of those older guys and you watch how they move and how they walk, and there's things that have lasted past basketball for them. So, there is a balance. And I do not claim, to have answers for it. I will always say this, like, I love our guys to play, and I want our guys to play as many games as they can, as safely as they possibly can. Injuries happen, and we'll never sacrifice that to get a guy on the floor in an 82-game season. But, I do think it is important that our guys are on the floor, but we will always look to protect them if injuries are coming, or, if you're right on that cusp where you feel something coming that, could turn into something worse.
Anything else from the room? Rafa.
Fernando Brito, Cap Spanish Radio. And let me start by this, coach. This is not a question about refereeing or the act of doing so. But last night, and forgive me for using my football or soccer mentality here, but would it be beneficial for the NBA and for the players, for the ref to be able to stop the play when there's a player laying down on the floor? I mean, we stop it when somebody's bleeding.
Yeah.
And the other guy, he not only continued to play, but drove exactly where the player was on the ground. So
Right.
where are you on that area?
I'm actually glad you brought that up because it's been something that I was thinking about last night, and this is no shot at Pat Frere, who I think is one of the best referees in our business, and he's extremely patient with me. So I know I test him some, but it's a call that he had to make because of the way the rule stands, right? I do think that and player safety is a priority. Like when you've got a guy who's down on the floor, who's taking a shot to the head, I think it should be quicker that play is stopped. I don't think you have time as a referee to watch the game, evaluate, the amount of blood that's been spilled. Isaac was bleeding from the nose. He couldn't see it because, he was laying down covering his face. I also think location matters. Right? Like if, not that it's any less, but if he's in the backcourt and the play's been advanced forward, he's not in position where he could harm other players. Like if, they continue to play, which they did, and someone did land on him, now that player could also be injured, and he's defenseless and that guy's defenseless. So I do think it's something that they should act quicker on. To me, it should be something that's automatic.
something like a playing field, throwing the ball out of bounds, like you say timeout or you say.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to throw the ball out of bounds, but the referees, I just think the referees need to be allowed to make that call and make it as quick as they can, just for the safety of all the guys that are out there.
All right,
All right, appreciate y'all.